Good day, Prof. My name is Lai Jing Wen and my matrix number is BC252189, and for evaluation 2, traditional kueh, I will be making almond and pumpkin seed crisps. Now for the cultural origin, almond and pumpkin seed crisps are common in parts of Asia, particularly in China and Taiwan. They are often prepared and sold during Chinese New Year, a period where families come together, exchange food, gifts, and celebrate prosperity. The thin and golden crisp symbolizes good fortune and abundance, while the use of nuts and seeds reflects wishes for growth and longevity. Whereas for my personal story and connection with this specific recipe is actually one of my favorite biscuits during Chinese New Year, because when I eat it, I don't feel as guilty because it's one of the healthier options and it's also very tasty. And second of all, my grandma and her sisters have a small business where they sell traditional biscuits during CNY. For about 30 years or so, they've had this business, so I grew up eating this crisp and also surrounded by it literally. Lastly, what I think viewers can learn from this video is that you can learn how to make delicious almond and pumpkin seed crisps by following this recipe, or even just by following along this video. Now, before we start cooking and preparing our ingredients, we need to wash our hands properly. For today's recipe, it's actually quite simple. We only have 3 main ingredients, which are almond slices that are sliced prepared for us today, or you could also slice your own almonds, but I choose to buy the prepared ones. And also we have pumpkin seed, of course, and most importantly, our main ingredient will be florentine powder. So first, I'll be measuring half a cup of this florentine powder and putting it inside this bowl. So a bit of a fun fact of florentine powder is that when it touches water, it gets all sticky. So when you are handling it, make sure that half a cup, make sure that you doesn't touch water, make sure your bowl is clean, and also make sure that your packaging is always airtight, or else you get super sticky and it's very hard to handle after that. So now we have half a cup of florentine powder. So for our almond slices and for our pumpkin seeds, we will do equal parts. We're going to do 1/4 of a cup of almond. So of course, some people do like extra almond, so it is up to you whether you want to add more or add less, but I usually do 1/4 of a cup. And also there are many variations to it nowadays, especially like people trying to like modernize it, I'd say. Some people would add like flax seeds, chia seeds, or even just any other like seeds to this recipe, but of course how I grew up with it was very traditional, which was only pumpkin seed and almond slices. So now in our bowl we have all our ingredients and we'll be mixing it now. So when you're mixing it, you also want to be careful because the pumpkin seeds are actually denser than the almond seeds. So when you're mixing it, right, you tend to see that the pumpkin seeds do sink towards the end, so make sure you're really mixing it properly. And also when scooping as well, we'll be mixing right before we scoop it inside. So now that it's all mixed together, make sure all of the nuts and the seeds are covered in the florentine powder. And at this time, you do want to move a little quicker because we want to make sure that the florentine powder doesn't get any. We have to make sure that the florentine powder doesn't get wet in any way, and of course air contains water, so make sure you work fast. Alright, so for the recipe that uses an air fryer, of course, we can't just put like a baking sheet inside because that's quite dangerous for an air fryer. So today we'll be using these aluminium cupcake tins. And for the cupcake tins, actually one of the good things is that you don't have to oil it in any way because it just won't stick to it. So usually for each cupcake tin, I would put about 1.5 tablespoons. So the first tablespoon is just to make sure that the entire bottom is covered, because like when it has like holes, then it's not as aesthetically pleasing. And for the top half, usually you should put like a bit more powder to make sure that your top half is always like a bit more glazed so that it looks better, of course. And for this part, make sure that you're always like swifting it back and forth a bit so that it evens out properly. And then at the end, you always tap it to make sure that there aren't any air bubbles or any holes in between. And now this is ready for the air fryer. Now you have to repeat it 4 times because for my specific air fryer, and I think generally for all air fryers, it can only fit up to 4. So I'm just gonna repeat this process another 3 times. Again, sift it properly and then give it a bit of a tap. Because I know that some people don't usually do that and it ends up looking very weird because like you can tell that it's not even and that it's like slanted a little bit. So again, swift and tap. One last one. Swift and tap. So now we have 4 of these. And I'll be popping them in the air fryer at 160 degrees Celsius for about 5 minutes or less. Depends on whether you want it to be more crispy, or some people don't want it to be as crispy, so you can do about 4 minutes. So now we'll be popping it into the air fryer for about 5 minutes at 160 degrees Celsius. Now that it's done, we'll be setting it aside for a few seconds to chill. Now we'll be using a plate to pop out all the crisps. Just give it a light tap and it should pop out smoothly. Now of course the crisp will end up looking something like this, and for the texture of course it's going to be crispy. This is what it looks like in the inside. It's time to plate. Today I'll be using this white plate with flowers on it, and as you can see I'm arranging the crisps in a circular pattern. And as you can see, it kind of forms this really pretty flower shape. That's it from me. Thank you so much for watching this video, Prof, and to anyone else who's watching this. In conclusion, I had a lot of fun making this square, and I hope that all of you get to enjoy it as much as I do. And I'd like to say thank you to my grandma for carrying this tradition on and carrying this recipe on to the next generation. And I'll for sure carry it on to the next generation myself. And thank you so much for watching again. Bye!